Rip it up. What's up, people? Welcome back to Crash Flow. I'm your host, Eli Reed. And today we got another episode of Each One Teach One. And we're going to meet up with another around-the-way New Yorker, Leo Fitzpatrick. You might know him from Kids, the movie Kids, or the show The Wire. He's been in a lot of films, and I always love the kind of films he's in. And he's you might know him from his artwork, or, he's curated art shows. But he also has a long history with skateboarding and in New York. So I want to catch up with him and see what he's been up to. So let's go. What's up, Leo?
What's up?
How you doing?
Hot.
It's hot. New York City. Summer blues. I always say that, like Quim Cardona. But I wanted to get into it. So where were you born?
Montclair, New Jersey. Grew up in West Orange, New Jersey.
Jersey. What was that like?
It was cool. Like, it was just like skating. There was a small scene. So basically, there'd be like one or two kids from each town surrounding your town, and you'd all link up. And but it's funny you just brought up like Kim, which is how we call him from New Jersey. It's Mike and Kim. Kim came later. But like slowly your crew started to spread out over Jersey, and you'd meet lots of other people like Bobby Pulio, German, like Tim O'Connor, Poncho. Like they were all from different pockets of Jersey. But just the fact that we were from Jersey, we kind of all stuck together, especially when you came to New York, because nobody in New York liked people from Jersey.
But what about, I'm gonna backtrack a second though. Before you, like, what were you into when you were young? Like people, I know he's a skater, he's an OG skater, but some people don't know that. But before you skated, what were you into? Like what did you? Like...
It was typical figuring it out as you go along shit. Like I'm the youngest of 5 kids. So I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, all really different from each other. So I went from like being on the swim team to like break dancing at the community pool.
You were a break dancer.
I was a break dancer. I wasn't like Kenny Anderson break dancer. I was very budget, but I was also like
That's crazy.
Old.
See, I never knew that. I love to hear stuff like that.
And then BMX, but I forget. Getting a nice BMX was really tricky in my neighborhood, and sure enough, one day I got a mongoose, and for my birthday, and it was stolen within like an hour and a half or some shit by this kid Jeff Simmons. I still remember his name.
I know Jeff.
And no, not Jeff Simmons the skater.
Okay.
Jeff Simmons. But and then I think like a lot of people's story, the next thing you do is you get a skateboard because you bring that shit inside and nobody could steal it. And so then we start building jump ramps and all that.
So how old were you when you found skateboarding?
I think I was 9.
8
or 9. Maybe I'd been skating a little, and my sister went on a trip to California and came home with like a Transworld or a Thrasher. Just blew our minds. And then by the time I was 12, I started coming to the city to skate at the banks and stuff. And that was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, what was that? What year was that? Like, that must have been crazy.
It must have been like 89, 90 or something.
Yeah.
And so you would take the PATH train to World Trade Center, and you could still skate at World Trade Center. There was the little ledges on the side, the stairs in the front, things like that. And then skate down to the banks. It was still like kind of World Trade Center, banks, and South Street, like Astor Place and Union Square. I don't know if we had really kind of discovered that part of New York yet, but the banks, it was like everybody says, like on the weekend, it was just hundreds of kids from all over, Connecticut, DC, everywhere. And I think the first time I came in, I was with my friend Hassan Woods and this kid Roscoe and some other Jersey kids. And so for some reason, the BMXers had beef with the skaters at the banks.
Mm-hmm.
And the skaters who skated there all the time kind of knew this, and when they saw the BMXers show up, I think they like broke out. And I think we were kind of stranded, and the BMXers tried to beat us up and take our shit. And they didn't get anything.
BMXers are tough. I know that.
Yeah, but I don't even understand what this beef was. But it was like our turf type thing.
Yeah.
But you know, I think we all skated down to the Burger King or some shit.
Yeah.
We're like, that was crazy. But for me, that was like part of the excitement. That shit was fun, you know, like.
But you stuck with the Jersey crew, like when you came in, like you were
Yeah.
down with who did you skate with from Jersey, and you would go into the city together before like New York kids and Jersey kids were even skating together. It was kind of it was
Yeah.
almost segregated, right? Like it was like
Yeah. I mean, unless you're like Mike V or Mike Kepper, like,
yeah.
you know, again, like guys I was growing up with, like Tim O'Connor and stuff, and they were good, but they were still just from Jersey, so it took them like years to be considered good, you know, like even though they were
You had to be
skating at
twice
the
as
same
good if
level.
you're from Jersey,
And
basically.
like Bobby was always good, Bobby
Yeah.
Coolio,
Yeah.
and he was down with Ryan Hickey and stuff, but maybe like from Nimbus days, like I don't know if you know what Nimbus is.
Yeah,
the company
I've
out
heard
of
of it.
Jersey, and they
Yeah.
sponsor a lot of people early, and then so yeah, there was. I think Mike and Kim really had like crossover appeal, especially around the time of like Huff and Matt Field and Real and all that stuff. Like Kim was just so good, you couldn't deny it. He just had such good style. Like you wanted him to represent wherever you were from. You know,
Yeah.
like, and Mike was also amazing. You know, Mike, R.I.P. He passed away.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, for years, like even to this day, I never front like I'm from New York. For a good 25 years, people reminded me like I wasn't from New York, so I never pretended to be from New York. And there's something nice about being the underdog from Jersey, you know, like, and so yeah, it's funny. But you know, by the time I was 14, I pretty much like quit going to school, just hanging out in Washington Square Park, drinking beer, going to NASA in the tunnel and taking acid, and like, you know, we could have been from Queens or Staten Island. We just happen to be from Jersey. Like,
Yeah.
we're doing the same shit
I mean,
as
it's
everybody
still
else.
basically just as far as Queens. It's just a different part, you know.
Yeah.
20
and-
minutes, half hour on the train.
Yeah. So, but it was all exciting. That's
Yeah.
for sure. Like I loved it, and you know, it was weird because when I would go back to Jersey, I really felt like I had seen something that other people hadn't, and I couldn't connect with those people anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I'd already kind of moved on from like whatever kind of stuff was happening in New Jersey. I just wanted to be in New York.
Yeah, once you're a part of something here, it just kind of sticks with you and
And
you
the
become
beauty about
different.
the beauty of like skateboarding is like you're always hanging out with older kids, and they're always like telling you what's cool and putting you in line and showing you music. And so then when you try to hang out with your normal 12-year-old friends, and they're kind of just doing 12-year-old shit, you're like, no, I want to be doing the bad shit with the 16-year-old kids. Like I want to be smoking weed and doing this. And I think that's like some weird lesson that you only learn in skateboarding, or like maybe growing up in some bad neighborhood. But you don't learn that from playing on team sports or nothing, you know. Because skating is also like hip-hop kids, metalheads, like every kind of freak of nature could find skateboarding. And you generally, if you're not a rich kid, you're kind of accepted. You know, I think like rich kids are the only ones that are kind of talk shit about in skating, like they had it too easy. But
Yeah.
if you're not a rich kid, and as you grow up you learn rich kids have fucked up families too. But like every skater kind of comes from a fucked up family, and at least in the 90s you're all kind of considered losers. So
That's
kinda-
exactly what Dredd said, by the way. He said the same thing.
you just kind of create your own family, and you know, like fuck it, it's fun. Like yeah, I don't know. It's the other day I was looking at these thrashers from the 90s. They were talking about the contests that were at Love Park,
Oh,
the
yeah,
Banks, and
I
the
remember
Playground
that.
in Connecticut.
Yeah, Playground.
And,
I was a kid watching those when I was like just started.
There's a photo of me standing behind Ricky Iola,
Sick.
and he's doing like it's like a ledge to ledge, like an ollie up to ledge, backside tail slide.
Yeah.
And I mean, I might have been 14 or something, and Ricky is so intimidating. And but yeah, that was the best. Going to Love Park, being like,
It made it exciting though. It made skateboarding more exciting. It's just a lot different.
Yeah, and but I think this is probably, everyone has a very similar story. The first person I think anybody remembers meeting in New York City is Harold Hunter.
Oh, without a doubt.
Like, Harold never passed judgment on nobody. He was always cool with everybody. And
he would take me when I was 18 to clubs that I could not get into.
Yeah.
He would take anybody to the club. Remember, he'd be like, yo, who's coming with me?
Yeah.
Harold.
And then he'd show up at the door and be like, yo, I was in Kids. I'd be like, what the fuck?
You were always like low key about it. He would like use it to
yeah.
his band. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was what was great. And he kind of like Aaron. He really knows how to take people in, you know?
Yeah, and so like, you know, Pete Beasy, another one, always super nice.
Yeah.
There were definitely some guys who weren't very nice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was cool. You know, it's just interesting when you're already like pretty low on the totem pole, and you got people talking shit on you, and you're like, you ain't that much higher than me, motherfucker. Like, we're still like outcasts, but somehow you just think you're a little better than me, so you're gonna talk shit on me.
Yeah, it's downtown New York stuff.
Yeah. So, but it's weird when you see young kids like internet bullying.
That's
a real thing. I know
Yeah.
it's a real thing. People get really fucked up over it. But for me, I had like real life bullying, like people actually kicking the shit out of me. So it's hard for me to understand how my comment on your Instagram hurts you to the point of you really being offended. You know,
Yeah.
it's like we're in a very weird time with like criticism, cancel culture, all that stuff.
Yeah. Or the difference between that comment and actually seeing them in person. And like when I remember coming here, it was like you'd see me and they would come up to me. If they didn't like me, they would do something to me. Like I remember if I was reading a magazine at Supreme, if somebody was gonna talk shit to me, they'd slap the magazine out of my hand. You know what I mean? I was like, what?
Yeah. Or like, you know, steal your board. That was a given. That was like an easy one. And but I think all that shit like gives you a thick skin, you know. It's kind of like, all right, cool, like I don't know. And then I'm sure we'll get into it.
Well,
but when I did Kids, that shit really fucked me up. Because now everybody really let me know I wasn't from New York. So who the fuck am I to play one of them, you know?
Yeah.
So,
but how did that happen? You just bumped into Larry at Washington kind of thing?
I met Larry when I was 14.
You were young.
And Larry, he says, he remembered me because like if I didn't land a trick, I would just like destroy my board and scream. And he thought I had like a real...
You were that dude?
Yeah,
I've never seen you like that.
He thought I had like a real like anger issues.
He's like, yeah, we need him in the...
And then, no, this is like when I was 14 and I was drinking and just being like a little wise ass and my voice is so crazy. And Larry just like I have like one of the first photos he took of me and I do look like a fucking baby. And then, you know, he kind of always talked about doing this movie for like 2 years. And there was lots of suspicion about him and what this movie is.
Oh, he was talking about it for 2 years before. I never knew that.
Well, he was, you know, like, so I know the whole story of the movie, and it's kind of long. Basically, Larry discovered skateboarding through Tobin Yeeland.
Yeah.
And then he was hanging out with, like, Mickey Reyes and all those guys in SF. And Tobin comes to New York, and that's when Larry starts, like, hanging around with, like, Jeff Pang and all those guys in Washington Square Park scene.
Yeah.
And even Curtis McCann was in town. It was, like, a really weird time. But Larry had to do his research. He had to, like, get in with the kids, and he had to teach himself how to skate. Like, you know, the reason he got Harmony to write it was because Harmony was 19 years old. He knew the lingo. Like, Larry was 50 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So, and he's like a kind of not a war photographer, but he only does shit he knows about. Like, when he's making books about doing drugs, he was doing drugs, you know? It's like, he's in it in the mix.
He goes where he really goes where he's shooting.
So yeah, that's kind of it. And then it's weird because like I said, I knew Harold and Peter and Jeff maybe a little, but I don't think I'd ever met Justin. Like, because Justin was kind of more like...
He was the New Yorker guys that were like kind of hardcore.
Well, he was with like, I want to say like, maybe like Ricky and like Ivan Perez.
Yeah, and they were tough kids back then.
Yeah, they were all living in this Brooklyn house.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it was like kind of, you're like, oh,
you don't want to mess with those guys.
That's some real shit.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it wasn't until until we started making the film that I met Justin. We didn't get along at all. Like we definitely didn't like each other. Because I was 16, he was 18.
Yeah.
We had our little egos. And I was sober. He definitely wasn't. And he was cool, and I was like a nerd, like straight up. And so that was interesting. That was an interesting dynamic. And we actually like fist fought on set once. And I remember Larry being like, "What are you doing? You guys are supposed to be best friends, and here you are like fist fighting." And it's just like little kid shit, I'm sure we're kind of pushing each other's buttons, and some dumb shit got said, and I don't know what happened, but yeah, that was a weird time in my life, to be 16 and make this thing.
I can imagine.
Didn't even know what it really was. Nobody really even thought it was gonna come out. And then it does come out, and it's kind of does well, but
it was almost like a snowball of a movie, right? It's like it does well, right? But I feel like people it like got bigger and bigger as time went on, to where even now, I mean, I go to Tompkins now. It seems like kids are literally just trying to reenact like the movie Kids, like just like they're just like they look the same, they dress the same, and they really got influenced by it. But they don't skate. But they don't skate like at all. No. But I think even now today, a lot of kids are still looking at. I mean, obviously things come back and around. The '90s, that whole look and vibe is really big right now. But I don't know. I feel like people know you for that. They know, and then you still did a lot of stuff with Larry, right? What was that, Bully?
Yeah. I mean, me and Larry are still friends. It's like I don't know. It's like weird because like my dad bounced when I was really young, and Larry kind of introduced me to a lot of art and stuff, and I don't know. It was like we just kind of like look after each other. Like even like during all this, like I still text him, make sure he's cool and stuff. Yeah. And we just clicked because I think that he knew I was genuinely interested in like art and books and like weird shit outside of like acting stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's not really what I'm into. But Larry's got all these different sides to him too, and so like we were able to connect on so many different levels that we just kind of always remained close, like closer than anybody else on the film. And so yeah, like we continue to work together, even in like art world shit. We still work together.
I've seen.
So, but
and well, a lot of people know that side. They might not know the details, but what about now though? So now, are you still curate? Like I know you've curated for Marlboro Gallery, or
yeah.
Are you still doing that, or what's going on with it?
So like I have a lot of friends who are artists, right? And I was always kind of like the actor of the crew.
Mm-hmm.
But like artists and actors have a lot of free time on their hands. So generally they just party together and shit. And so like, so everybody was partying, like we were celebrating some shit, but like I hadn't been working that much. And like I would do a job every now and again, but I was definitely hanging out more than celebrating because there wasn't much to celebrate. So I was like, fuck, well what, I think the nice thing about New York is you always have to be doing something. Like if you're just sitting around not doing shit, then you're a leech and people recognize that and they're like, well, nah, this dude isn't like doing anything.
It's visible in New York.
So I was like, fuck it. I got a lot of friends who are artists. I got a lot of free time on my hands. I'm gonna start an art gallery. So I did my first gallery like 10 years ago. It was called Home Alone. It was me, this artist Nate Lohman, and this artist Hannah Leiden. And we just opened it.
And if you don't know Nate Lohman, he designed the interior of Supreme years ago.
Yeah.
He's a good guy.
And so we just started a fucking art gallery. We didn't know what we were doing. Nothing was for sale. We never sold shit. And but we did it like kind of like for the kids, and people liked it. And it worked. Somehow it worked because it was kind of like there was no goal. It was just kind of a pure thing that happened. And so even though I didn't sell anything, I built up a resume, and a big kind of Chelsea gallery asked me to come work for them, like give them some street cred and this and that. And so I took the paycheck and I went up there for 5 years. But I don't know. I mean, I think everybody knows when they're kind of getting used a little bit to like make something cool or to like rebrand something. So regardless, it didn't work out. 5 years later, it didn't work out.
Okay, so Marlboro, no,
there's
okay.
no more
Okay,
Marlboro.
I wasn't sure, yeah.
So, and you know, it's like cool, you know, you get opportunities to do some things that maybe you wouldn't be able to do on your own. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, we're more responsible for the content than who we work for. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't care who you skate for, who you work for, like you're making them cool. Like they're not making you cool. I don't know. It's
yeah, man.
You bring a lot to the table, so don't forget that, you know. So now it's a fucking interesting time to be alive. Very, very weird time to be alive. But I'm going back to my roots, and I'm opening another gallery.
Oh.
And for all this shit is like, I make no money doing it, but like I'm addicted to doing it, and I'm addicted to like turning young kids on the way people turn me on to shit, and giving people like a space to maybe experience something they wouldn't otherwise. And you know, the weirdest thing for me is a lot of kids always ask me, how much money does it cost to go to an art gallery? You're like, art galleries are free.
Yeah.
This is for us.
They don't even know that.
Yeah.
There's always, you can even get a free glass of wine if you drink there.
Yeah.
It's always been like that.
So, you know, it's like, you know, I don't think the world needs another art gallery right now.
Yeah, I get you.
But it needs a cool place for kids to feel welcomed.
Definitely.
And not feel like they're expected to buy anything. Or, you know, it's just like, no, look, this is just for you guys. And like, let's all chill. Let's have fun. Hopefully you guys can like link up and like form a community.
I agree.
And so,
like
you know, like we were saying earlier.
Do you have a name for it?
Yeah, but it's a little early.
Okay, a little early. Soon.
But you know, it's kind of like we were talking about earlier about this New York City rat race.
Yeah.
And everybody like this, forcing everybody to pause and reset. And
we had some skaters trying to skate the spot, so we moved the location.
Got chased out.
So,
I'm too old.
What do you got? You got any advice for older guys about kids that want to move to New York? They want to be a part of the scene, or they want to skate. They want to do something creative. Like, what do you advise for kids when they first come to New York and stuff?
I mean, for me personally, I think New York's about to get real interesting again, because a lot of people have left and the rents are getting lower. And I think the best music always comes from the most fucked up situations, the best art, the best scenes. And so it's a real interesting time to move to New York. But the first step is just moving to New York and fucking doing it. And you take about a month to people watch and just kind of check it out, see the lay of the land, then try to find your bearings and see where you belong. Nobody really lives in Manhattan anymore. You probably end up in Brooklyn because there's a lot cooler shit happening out there. But yeah, you just got to do it. Get a little skate house with 3 or 4 friends and just figure it out. I don't know. It's like, the nice thing about New York is there's something for everybody. It doesn't matter what you're into, you can find it here, you know, in any kind of version of it. Like, so yeah, I don't know. It's, you know the fucked up thing, because I have a kid, and I think it's really crazy to raise a kid in New York City, because where's he gonna go for inspiration? The way we came to New York to find ourselves. You know, I think that's really important. The first step is just leaving the house, leaving the comforts of home, and just kind of striking out on your own and figuring out yourself. And if you already live in New York City, well, shit, maybe you're kind of spoiled in a weird way. I don't know.
I think so.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, and it doesn't have to be New York. It could be anywhere. Like, you know, you make your own scene. It doesn't matter where you are, you know. Like, I've seen some of the best scenes in the country in places like Pittsburgh and Detroit, cities like that. Like, every place has something to offer. You just have to be willing to strike out and find it, you know. And if you're on a skateboard, you're already rolling in the right direction, you know. Every day you go a little further, you check out something a little different, and then you just take that information and you keep rolling, you know. That's it.
Boom. There you go. Wisdom from the wise. Leo, thanks, man. Appreciate
Each
it.
one teach one.